My guest today is Marsilda Bialczak. She is the founder of Expand2Market, an organization that helps small to medium-sized businesses not only go to market, but find their niche and expand it to new markets using digital media, social media, digital marketing, social media, SEO, market research, and automation. Using her 7+ years of sales experience in the European and US market and 8+ years of marketing and social media experience, she's assisted companies across a vast number of industries increase their brand awareness, lead generation, SEO, social media presence, and turn their leads into lifetime customers. Marsilda, welcome to the show.
A pleasure to be here. Hi, everybody.
Well, I really think the background that you have is so invaluable. And really, we were talking a little bit prior to the show of just kind of what your experience was. And I talked to quite a few people sort of in the startup space. And I think what Expand2Market is really doing is truly unique and helping a lot of people. So I think what you'll have to share with listeners today is really invaluable. I think, but first to start off, if you can tell listeners a little bit about your background and how Expand2Market came to be what it is today.
So I feel like this might be interesting because this is not really the usual story that you hear from other entrepreneurs, but I actually was not born in the US. I was born in Albania, in a really small and poor country in Europe. It's next to Greece and Croatia. And over there, I was finishing my degree and master, and I had a lot of sales experience from different backgrounds, if it was field, telemarketing, because those were basically the only opportunities at that time. And I'm talking about like 12, 13 years ago, right? Social media just started at that time, and honestly I was using Facebook to, I don't know, just post pictures, talk about my day, usually the usual stuff that everybody uses Facebook. And I never in 100 years thought that actually like social media would be the thing one day, that everybody will use social media, every company will use social media. I never thought of it. So if I probably adapted and changed, had a different mindset from like 13 years ago, who knows where I would have been right now. So my story kind of like shifted and changed, where I dropped everything. I dropped my life in Albania, my parents, people that I knew, and kind of like followed my heart to like move to US. Like the only reason that I moved to US is like I fell in love with my husband, and I kind of like took that leap of faith that, hey, finger crossed, everything is going to work out, and thank God he didn't like come up to be like a serial killer or something. But so that's kind of like how my life started in US. And I already had that teaser of like social media. Like I really was kind of passionate. So right away, as any person knows at that stage, I was only 22 years old. And I thought, like my degree is in Albanian, maybe people won't recognize in US. So right away, I went to finish a degree from University of Connecticut, in their campus in Stores, Connecticut. And that was my experience. I finished business marketing, and that was kind of like my first touch of marketing. And I still felt that was outdated. Like I felt like the subjects and the books were not really teaching me what I was already learning online. Like I honestly, in my 4-year degree there, I think only one class mainly very smallly touched about social media.
Definitely.
And mind you, like this was like 7 years ago. So still like, the books haven't really changed much. So while I was going to college, I tried to like be, okay, Marcy, how can you save money? I didn't like sleep in the dorm. I was commuting. I volunteered on 2 different organizations by doing marketing coordination, social media, so I can get as much experience in this field and the passion that I had about social media. So in the same time, I was even working as a waitress in a restaurant. And then eventually I started part-time on a startup. So I started like having, okay, now I have some experience, I have some knowledge, but how do you apply to a company that just started and they don't have the huge marketing budget to do paid ads and all that. From there, I started with another startup, and kind of like I started like understanding more and more, not just like market, but like the market for entrepreneurs that are starting a company from scratch. When I say from scratch, it's like literally building the website when I joined, right? And how do you increase that brand, and how do you stand out when you just started, nobody knows about you. So from there, me and my husband actually moved to New Hampshire, where I started having sales experience, but I kind of like moved a little bit away from social media because at the time, honestly, was not getting paid much as a social media specialist.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, sometimes it still does, but people just don't know how to brand themselves. That's why they don't get paid as much, right?
Mhm.
And like I kind of like started working for a company, where I also was on the sales side, on a product
Mhm.
management side.
Yeah.
So I kind of like saw the perspective of the customer now, like of
Mhm.
bigger companies and what their needs are, what IT
Yeah.
solutions, let's say they needed, and kind of like understanding the sales aspect, the sales psychology of it, and how
Mhm.
can you relate it with marketing and thinking different, thinking how
Mhm.
to be different and not go where everybody's going.
Yeah.
So after had some experience in my corporate, I felt like always something was missing, to be honest. Like I always felt
Mhm.
like there was nothing was enough.
Mhm.
Promotion was not enough. Like I had a calling, and like I never really thought anything out of my intuition.
Mhm.
But that was the first time that where unfortunately I couldn't go back to corporate when I was on maternity leave. I had some issues
Mhm.
with my kid at that time.
Mhm.
The corporate where I was working didn't have a lot of remote flexibility, so it
Mhm.
kind of like almost forced me to quit in a way. So I'm like, you know what? Why don't I just digest this whole experience and see where do I want to be next?
Mhm.
And honestly, I spent the first few months like understanding, like, am I going to go back in corporate America, maybe make more money? Am I going to start
Mhm.
my business? I always wanted to start my business, but you never
Yeah.
think that you can ever achieve it because
Yeah.
everybody's scared.
Absolutely.
Everybody, honestly, we don't have the balls sometimes. Like I apologize if this is okay in your show.
No problem.
But like my husband was a last push, and he's like,
Yeah.
what are you waiting for? Like, just
Right.
start and figure out as you go. You
Yeah.
already know, you already have experience,
Mhm.
you're passionate about it. People relate just because of your passion. Just start. And that's what I
Mhm.
did.
Cool.
I started the coaching aspect of it. Like I was a
Okay.
consultant first.
Yeah.
And really soonly, I realized that all these businesses, yes,
Mhm.
they needed a strategist, they needed a project manager to just like help them with the overall strategy and
Yeah.
branding of their company.
Yeah.
But they also needed like people they can rely on to do the
Mhm.
services. And that what
Yes.
was kind of like my idea. I'm like, why don't I create a digital marketing agency
Mm.
and really focus on the small and medium businesses to
Yes.
truly help them, because I've been there. I've been in their
Right.
shoes. I've worked with startups before, and I can
Mhm.
truly help them expand to new markets just because I have that European experience and the
Interesting.
working US experience, right? So like my life is kind of like
Mhm.
half and half right now. But yeah, that's where it all started.
Okay.
We truly launched as a company. I was doing coaching business before, but truly
Mhm.
launched as a company this January. So this is our first year, and we
Amazing.
so relate with the other entrepreneurs just because
Mhm.
we're going through it as well.
Right. And that's what makes it so relatable for people. And I think going back to when you first were in Europe, moving all the way to the USA, it's not that it's unconventional, but it's definitely uncomfortable at times, and you're exposing yourself to a new culture in a way that's very
It's a
entrepreneurial in
culture
a way.
shock.
It's a
It's
huge culture
literally a
shock for
culture
sure.
shock. And
Yeah.
I did American studies on my college, right? I was
Mhm.
doing American studies, learned the literature, but it's still so different because
Mhm.
what people don't realize is like 99.9% of the population that I was literally being with, it was all Albanians. And
Mhm.
here, like 99% of the population is literally everybody else, like all
Mhm.
the cultures. So you don't know where you are, where you fit. So it's really challenging for any immigrant, just like
Yeah.
someone coming from Europe to move and start a life from scratch. Thank God I knew English, but there's people that come here with zero
Mhm.
English and they have to start figuring out what to do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, definitely very commendable. And then to go through all these different pursuits and then to finally have your own pursuit after everything that you've been through and everything that you learn, starting with consulting. And the consulting and coaching is amazing because you don't need a lot of assets upfront financially. It's just your knowledgeable assets and all those various things that you have. So it's a really good way to get into it. And then you slowly build the business. It's one strategy that I use as well, and I've talked about on the show previously. So I think that's very commendable. So well done on that.